After centuries of pushing back the elder races, humanity ruled most of the continent east of the Great Sea, with the united empire of Nilfgaard in the south, while the north was divided into rival kingdoms. By the 13th century, these northern realms included the neutral states of Kovir, Povis, and the Hengfors League, while the more aggressive kingdoms were Redania, Kedwin, Temeria, Edirn, Lyria, Rivia, Sidaris, Verden, Bruges, Sintra, Sodden, and the island of Skellige. Though each of these realms had governments to administer everyday operations, larger decisions were often influenced by the Brotherhood of Sorcerers, who sent their powerful agents to serve as advisors to the northern kings. Officially, kings had the final say, and in some cases exercised their power by banning magic users from their lands, but the Brotherhood represented a vast network of highly trained sorcerers, each of whom had their own small army of spies, informants, and allies, meaning that in most cases, they were able to convince or manipulate rulers into doing whatever they wished, and where that failed, they might have the monarch replaced. In the south, magic users were given far less deference, forced to abide by strict rules and regulations set by the state to prevent them from abusing their power. United under an emperor who held absolute authority, Nilfgaardian politics were ruthless and highly competitive, both for those seeking royal favor and those working against the ruling dynasty. After gathering support from a number of influential families, a nobleman known to history as the Usurper led a coup, killed the emperor, and assumed power. As a result, from 1239 to 1257, the empire fell under the rule of a man determined to expand his domain, marching north to conquer the lands of Ebbing, Mecht, Metina, and Nazaire. Despite his victories, the usurper had many enemies within the empire, and so a conspiracy was hatched to bring back the old dynasty. Working through a northern sorcerer named Vilgefortz, who had his own secret agenda, they contacted Emhyr var Emreis, the son of the murdered emperor, who after being cursed and exiled, posed as Urchion of Erlenwald to travel north, where he happened upon the king of Sintra and saved his life. Invoking the law of surprise for his reward, the king was honor-bound to give Urchion whatever was found upon returning home, but was not expected. In this case, the king found his wife pregnant with their daughter Pavetta, and so the child was destined to become the wife of this southern knight. Some years later, Urchion met the princess, and while he did not feel love, he saw in her a great opportunity for a better life. Pavetta, however, loved him deeply and eventually convinced her mother, Queen Calanthe, to accept their marriage. Through this union, his curse was lifted, and soon enough they had a daughter of their own they named Cirilla. But everything changed when Prince Emhyr was contacted by the sorcerer Vilgefortz, who not only promised financial aid and military support if he returned south to depose the usurper, but also argued that there was a far larger issue at play, and that the very fate of the world might rest upon his shoulders. Teaching the prince about the elven prophecy of Ithlin, she foresaw the doom of their world through an inevitable white frost. However, she also offered hope that the world might be reborn through a child of the elder blood. Thousands of years earlier, the elves used magical gateways to travel freely between the worlds of the multiverse, conquering and enslaving whoever they wished. Yet their use of this gateway required the help of the unicorn race, sentient horse-like beings with powerful magical abilities. Using and abusing the unicorns, they eventually rebelled and took the portal for themselves, leaving the elves to start a breeding program for the Elder Blood gene, creating a line of magic users so powerful they might one day regain control of the gateway. Yet their plan fell to shambles when the carrier Lara Doran fell in love with a human mage, abandoning her responsibilities to marry this man and birth his half-blood child. Although the Elder Blood gene would never be as powerful as it was under a full-blooded elf, the Brotherhood of Sorcerers took up the challenge of trying to ensure this unique mutation survived through a breeding program of their own involving the rulers of the North. But in the end, they failed to properly understand and keep track of it through the generations, until it was lost and later unexpectedly reappeared in the 13th century inside Princess Pavetta, daughter to the Queen of Sintra. The gene was then passed to Ciri, her daughter with Emhyr var Emreis, meaning their child was the key to Ithlin's prophecy, and through her line, the world might be reborn. Believing that the future depended on his daughter, he made a plan to fake their deaths in a boating accident and escape into the south. But Pavetta grew suspicious and smuggled their daughter away before they set out to sea. Upon learning what occurred, Emhyr grew furious and pushed Pavetta into the water where she drowned. The ship, meanwhile, was magically transported to safety by Vilgefortz, with Emhyr as its only passenger. In order to recover his daughter, the prince gathered his allies and overthrew the usurper to take his rightful place as emperor, and once in power, enacted a purge to eliminate all those who stood against him, leaving many to name him the White Flame, dancing on the barrows of his enemies. After consolidating power, Emhyr focused on raising a mighty host to invade the north, starting with the conquest of Cintra, where he might at last capture his daughter. In 1263 AR, the First Northern War began with the invasion of Cintra, in which Nilfgaard won the Battle of Marnadel Valley before marching to the capital and killing the queen in a terrible slaughter. Though Princess Ciri was captured by a Nilfgaardian soldier, she managed to escape into the wilderness, alone and scared, finding shelter wherever possible until her inevitable reunion with the Witcher Geralt of Rivia. A highly trained monster hunter, taught in the Wolf School of Kaer Morhen, Geralt was present at the feast where Princess Pavetta declared her love for Urchion of Erlenwald, and even played a role in events by saving Emhyr's life and ensuring the law of surprise was upheld. As a reward for his efforts, he too invoked the law of surprise, only to quickly find out Pavetta was pregnant. Although Geralt did not want to take the girl away from her family, Ciri knew they were destined for each other and awaited the day they would be together. Learning that they failed to apprehend his daughter, Emhyr eventually put his old ally Vilgefortz in charge of the hunt. In addition to attacking Cintra, Nilfgaard also invaded the kingdom of Sodden, capturing half the realm through their victory in the First Battle of Sodden. Yet here they met their end, as the kingdoms of the north finally rallied together and halted any further expansion. Joining the allied armies was the Brotherhood of Sorcerers, who knew their rights and freedoms were also at stake in this clash of civilizations. The war then culminated in the Battle of Sodden Hill, where up to 100,000 warriors clashed, leaving the North victorious and Empire in retreat. This costly battle resulted in 30,000 casualties, including 13 dead sorcerers from the Brotherhood, and did not change the fact that both the kingdoms of Cintra and Sodden were gone. Signing an uneasy peace, Nilfgaard retained control of Cintra and Upper Sodden, while Lower Sodden went to the kingdom of Temeria. Despite their defeat in the First Northern War and retreat across the Yaruga River, Emperor Emhyr of Nilfgaard immediately started making preparations for the next invasion by implementing another purge, this time killing the generals and commanders who led the failed campaign to replace them with a new generation of young warriors, eager to prove themselves in battle. Believing another war was inevitable, the northern monarchs Vizimir II of Redania, Meve of Lyria and Rivia, Foltest of Temeria, Demavend of Edirn, and Henselt of Kedwin attended a secret meeting at Hague Castle in 1267 AR. Devising a plan to strike the first blow, the kings of Edirn and Kedwin were first tasked with clearing their lands of non-human rebels like the Scoia'tael. Next, they were to send troops into the castles along the border with Nilfgaard, and lastly, Demavend was to prepare a special unit to perform a false flag operation, attacking a northern stronghold with troops dressed in Nilfgaardian armor. Using this event as a justification, the northern kings could descend upon the south in full force, taking back the lands lost in the previous war. As for the missing princess, Cirilla, sole heir to Queen Calanthe, the monarchs concluded she needed to die, as they believed the emperor wanted her to solidify his control over Cintra. Learning of the meeting and plan through his vast spy network, Emhyr preemptively sent a large army under Field Marshal Menno Cohorn to occupy fortresses along the border, waiting for their chance to strike. However, King Vizimir had his own great spy network through his head of intelligence, Sigismund Dijkstra, discovered that enemy troops were being prepared because their plans were leaked, and so sent a messenger with all haste to Demavend in Edirn, asking him to delay the false flag attack because the Empire knew it was coming. Unfortunately, the royal messenger, Applegat, was killed by Scoia'tael and never delivered the warning. With the stage set for conflict, a great sorcerers' meeting was held on the Isle of Thanedd, and soon turned to violence when Philippa Eilhart and those loyal to the north preemptively arrested the elves and those suspected of allying with the south. Yet there was a third faction present as well, led by Tessaya de Vries, who believed loyalty to the Brotherhood was paramount, admonishing Philippa as she did not see any evidence that those under arrest were traitors. Casting a spell, Tessaya freed them, only to immediately learn she was sorely mistaken. Among the liberated was the elf Francesca Findabair, who ran to open the gates, allowing an army of Scoia'tael to descend upon them. Another of the traitors was the powerful Vilgefortz, who used the opportunity to try and capture Princess Ciri, who was brought into the middle of this chaos by the sorceress Yennefer of Vengerberg. After escaping Sintra during the First Northern War, Ciri was taken in by a peasant family, until destiny reunited her with Geralt of Rivia, who in time came to be viewed as her adopted father. Taking her to the Wolf School of Kaer Morhen, Ciri was trained as a witcher, but her instructors were unprepared to deal with her powerful magical abilities, as she sometimes went into a trance and made dire prophecies about the future. To understand what was happening, Geralt sent for his friend, the sorceress Triss Merigold, who came to Kaer Morhen and helped look after the girl, soon seeing her as a younger sister. Although Triss identified her as a source, one of those born with innate magical abilities, she did not know enough about this subject, and with no other choice left to him, Geralt contacted his former lover, Yennefer of Vengerberg. Taking over the girl's education, Yennefer soon became her adopted mother, as the two traveled together, training in the magical arts. After spending some time in a temple school, Ciri was meant to attend the Academy of Aretuza, where her abilities could truly be explored. Yet before they arrived, Yennefer's former teacher, Tissaia de Vries, asked that Ciri be brought to the meeting on Thanedd, as she not only represented a political prize, but also a magical one, and so might serve to unite the disparate factions of the Brotherhood. Instead, Ciri fell into a trance and delivered a dire prophecy in front of the sorcerers, resulting in further chaos and bloodshed. Learning that Ciri was in danger, Geralt tore through Thanedd, killing soldiers and sorcerers alike, until he was finally defeated and nearly killed by Vilgefortz. Yennefer was also incapacitated by the elves and taken away, leaving Ciri to flee to the Tower of the Gulls, where her Elder Blood activated an unstable portal, transporting her far into the east. Lost and alone, Ciri suffered greatly, and so latched onto the first group to accept her, which was a gang of outlaws called the Rats. After Thanedd, the Brotherhood was gone, and so Tissaia de Vries killed herself in disgrace, while the elves under Francesca Findabair were now openly allied with Nilfgaard, and those following Philippa Eilhart remained loyal to the north. Yet the Thanedd coup was not the only great event to occur that night, as King Vizimir of Redania was assassinated, while further east, a Lyrian fort was attacked by soldiers dressed in Nilfgaardian armor, officially beginning the Second Northern War. In Redania, the sorceress Philippa Eilhart and head of intelligence Sigismund Dijkstra ran the country from behind the scenes, and began a purge of all those who might be loyal to the Empire. In Temeria, Foltest lost faith in magic users, and expelled them from his lands. Wanting to regain the power lost to them, Philippa started a new organization named the Lodge of Sorceresses, a women's-only society dedicated to the preservation and prosperity of magic across the continent. Inviting representatives from the north, Nilfgaard, the elves, and even the neutral states, this Council of Ten began to manipulate events from the shadows, greatly influencing how the war and future of the continent developed. In regards to Ciri, they planned to make both her and Yennefer members of the Lodge, in order to train the girl to become a queen and leader of their organization. After the attack in Lyria and declaration of war, Nilfgaard marched their massive army beyond the Yaruga, quickly conquering Lyria and Rivia, forcing their queen to flee north. Next, they invaded Edirn, winning the Battle of Aldersburg and capturing the city of Vengerberg, before King Demavend fled into Redania. Queen Meve, meanwhile, gathered as many as she could and returned south to start a guerrilla campaign against Nilfgaard, launching ambush attacks in the forest and mountains. Having made rapid advancements in the war, it now appeared as though their victory may be inevitable, and so King Henselt entered into a secret agreement with the Emperor, allowing Cedwyn to send soldiers into the north of Edirn to pretend they are liberating their allies, while their true purpose was to sit out the war. With the ancient elven lands of Dol Blathanna now under imperial control, they were gifted to Queen Francesca Findabair to rule as a puppet of the south. With the east all but defeated, the kings of the west were terrified, and so Verdun surrendered, declaring for the south, while Temeria signed a non-aggression treaty, which was broken just a few weeks later when Nilfgaard invaded Bruges, their vassal state. As the Second Northern War intensified, and many more battles, large and small, erupted, towns were sacked, villages burned, and crops stolen or destroyed, with the Empire appearing to be on the precipice of victory. Although a harsh winter forced them to delay their final push for a year, eventually they were ready to send 300,000 soldiers to complete their conquest. Dividing their forces into 3 divisions, the Verden Operations Group was tasked with taking Cidaris to secure the west flank, while the East Army Group secured Lyria, Rivia, Edirn, and the Pontar Valley, leaving the Center Army Group to conquer Temeria without fear of attack from the sides. Though the East Army Group succeeded, the Verden operation was a disaster as it was led by Joachim de Wet, an enemy of the Emperor plotting his assassination. Having no desire to help Emhyr win his war, Joachim squandered his advantage in numbers by focusing on exterminating the rebels of Verden rather than attacking and conquering Cidaris. This action not only delayed the Center Army's attack on Temeria, but also led to a civilian uprising because of the cruel methods used to find and kill rebels. Matters then grew worse when the Nilfgaard-loyal king of Verden was murdered by his son, who now led the uprising against the south alongside his allies from the island of Skellige. Taking advantage of the chaos, Cidaris attacked from the north, and so the Verden operation ended in complete failure. The defeat of Nilfgaard in the west created a new wave of energy in the north, leading to increased recruitment and cooperation as the Nordling states united, allying with the dwarves of Mahakam and the famous warriors of the Free Company. Financing part of the North's war effort was the King of Kovir, who struck up a friendship with Dijkstra of Redania and knew it was in the best interest of his people for Nilfgaard to lose. In order to get around his declared neutrality, he sent the money indirectly, using a wealthy Redanian ally as a proxy, an idea inspired by his wife, who was working under orders from the Lodge of Sorceresses. With renewed vigor, the North attacked and liberated Maribor and Mayenna, only for the Empire to strike back and once again lay siege to Mayenna. Fearing the loss of their momentum, the entirety of the North descended upon Temeria, hoping to secure Mayenna and continue pushing Nilfgaard south. Learning that King Foltest was leading a massive army, Field Marshal Cohorn rallied his men and cut off the Nordlings to engage in the critical Battle of Brenna. This decisive battle, involving roughly 90,000 soldiers, was partly orchestrated by the Lodge of Sorceresses, who wanted a definitive contest to decide the matter one way or another. Though the battle went back and forth, resulting in roughly 30,000 casualties, the North was ultimately victorious. With Nilfgaard in retreat, the Northmen continued to push the attack, taking Bruges, Verden, and Lower Sodden in the west, while in the east, Demavend of Edirn and Henselt of Kedwin led a joint attack to win the Second Battle of Aldersburg, while Queen Meve and her partisans pushed them from Lyria and Rivia, forcing Nilfgaard to abandon all their gains north of the Yaruga River. In 1268, the monarchs of the north and a representative of the empire negotiated the Peace of Sintra, drawing the borders at the Yaruga, with Sintra in the hands of a girl posing as Princess Cirilla, who would act as a puppet for the emperor. Though some few knew this girl was a fake, they kept it quiet for the sake of peace. While most saw this war as a great victory for the Nordlings, business interests in the south did not agree, as northern infrastructure, factories, and agriculture were devastated, and with a peace agreement allowing trade with Nilfgaard, their corporations could flood the markets and achieve economic victory in the face of military defeat. Disappointed by their failure to conquer the north, Emperor Emhyr was nevertheless victorious in his primary mission of finding his daughter, Cirilla, the child of the Elder Blood, at last reuniting with her at Stigga Castle in Ebbing. Unfortunately, Ciri's life after the coup on Thanedd was brutal, with even the brief moments of happiness she cherished ultimately destroyed and taken away. In her travels, Ciri was hunted, tortured, and learned to kill, both out of necessity and amusement. Yet she eventually learned to use her elder blood to transport between worlds, escaping her human pursuers. Unfortunately, humans were not the only ones chasing her, and she was eventually captured by the Wild Hunt, elves from the world of the NL, who wanted her to breed with their king and produce a child to fulfill Ithleen's prophecy and return to them control of the gateway between worlds. Living with them for a time, Ciri soon allied with the unicorn species, enemies of the elves who shared these lands, and they helped her escape to eventually reach her homeworld. Once returned, she went to confront Vilgefortz, hoping to end his hunt for her and rescue Yennefer, who had been taken prisoner at Stigga Castle. Delighted to see she walked right into his fortress, Vilgefortz captured Ciri with ease and prepared to impregnate her through artificial insemination in order to obtain her placental blood. With no intention of delivering her to the Emperor, his entire history and alliance with Nilfgaard was simply a ploy so he might have access to Ciri and use her in his sadistic experiments to steal her incredible powers for himself. But the happiness of Vilgefortz was short-lived, as Geralt of Rivia soon arrived, accompanied by a party of loyal friends who helped him clear the castle and rescue his family. After surviving a long and perilous journey, Geralt at last faced Vilgefortz again, and this time emerged victorious, slaying the powerful elf. Though all of the Witcher's companions lost their lives in the fighting at Stygia, they succeeded in helping rescue both Ciri and Yennefer, with Geralt fighting alongside his daughter to finish off the last of the guards as they escaped. But as they reached the entrance to the castle, the Emperor and a Nilfgaardian army arrived, taking Ciri into custody. Though both Yennefer and Geralt had to die because they knew far too much, Emhyr var Emreis greatly respected the Witcher for all he'd accomplished and showed some mercy by allowing them to take a bath and spend some intimate time together before killing themselves. Ciri, meanwhile, would be taken south and given the life of a queen with all the money and power she could ever want. However, since almost no one knew Ciri was related to the Emperor, the plan was for father to marry daughter and produce a child of the Elder Blood who might one day rule the Empire and fulfill the prophecy to save the world. Believing the fate of everyone was depending on him, he finally had victory within reach, but as Emhyr looked upon his daughter and saw the pain in her eyes, he suddenly realized he was a monster and couldn't see it through. After everything the Emperor and continent went through so he might capture his daughter, in the end, he let her go so she could return to her real father. After reuniting with Geralt and Yennefer, the three spent some time together as a family before Ciri attended a meeting with the Lodge of Sorceresses, where she was forced to agree to an arranged marriage with the future king of Kovir. Yet when Ciri, Yennefer, and Triss Merigold went to meet Geralt in Rivia and explain the situation, they learned he was caught up in the middle of a pogrom in which non-humans were targeted and massacred. Finding Geralt severely wounded and about to die, Yennefer soon collapsed at his side after using up all her energy in futile attempts to heal him with magic. Determined to save them, Ciri broke her promise to the Lodge and used her magic to transport her mother and father to another world where they could be healed. Fearing she would attract the attention of the Wild Hunt, and unwilling to return to a life of forced marriage, Ciri then took off on her own to explore the multiverse, and so the last known carrier of the Elder Blood was lost to the world. Love The Witcher or any other series? Then why not check out Audible, where they have the largest collection of audiobooks available. Sign up now and get 1 free audiobook and 2 Audible originals, or else give the gift of membership to someone you know. If you prefer to read your stories, then click on the link to the Kindle Unlimited plan and get access to as many ebooks as you want. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the excellent Witcher audiobooks, narrated by Peter Kenny, including the main novels and short stories which accompany the series. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Admiral Flint, Sir Rick Lone, Sir Bob of the Buoy, and Average Soul. If you'd like to help the channel, go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can sign up and gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and access the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.